Hello, this is a third in a series of videos by Planar World Consulting that addresses pragmatic realities for your organization going global. And today's focus and topic I might refer to as Groundhog Day. It can also be referred to as the patterns and cycles of development. But for each country you go into, remember, you're not simply flipping a switch and all of a sudden being global everywhere around the world that your plan might ultimately call for. There's patterns of development and stages of development that take place over time that is important to keep in mind as you grow internationally. There's four things I want to address in this video, but perhaps the most fundamental consideration outside of those four I want to mention up front. And in addition to specifically defining what strategic goals you are pursuing in going global and having a clear and documented understanding of that, not only between your domestic staff and board of directors, but as well as with your international colleagues, it's a question of how can the organization best grow. And the fundamental consideration is this: do we provide for organic growth, or do we provide for guidance and resources to be committed domestically to the international chapters and countries and organizations with whom we are working to help grow the organization? That's a fundamental question. One can argue either way, but it's something that you need to take into consideration. In my 17 years of experience in taking a nonprofit globally, we happen to observe an organic growth pattern, and we did that because we wanted to provide the autonomy to our colleagues in country to manage the organization as long as they were doing so ethically and pursuing the same strategic goals as set by the board of directors. But there are some that can make a good argument for applying resources differently to help grow the organization. Simply an important consideration to keep in mind. The four things relative to Groundhog Day are these patterns, and one is, in the early days you will find one or two of your international colleagues, no doubt, most active in helping get established in country. The pattern is normally as other people want to be involved, not everyone will give equally of their time to help move the organization forward. There's a pattern that normally somewhere between 12 to 24 months in, you'll recognize that those initial leaders may either be burning out from their amount of effort, or because of having undertaken the effort primarily in the beginning, others want to get involved now. And there's an awkwardness, but there's a simple approach to democracy and inclusivity that's important to keep in mind for the success of your organization in another country. Secondly, you must keep in mind the process of governance. Certainly maintaining the intellectual property rights and the leverage of the headquarters organization, but all colleagues internationally today, because good ideas come from everywhere and good thinking does, look for a voice and a policy-making voice in the organization at some point. And there should be a plan from day one in going global, recognizing that at some point, as your global colleagues reach a point of either program sophistication and development or leadership in a particular area helping the industry globally, that their voice should be on an equal platform with whatever the policy making process is for the organization as a whole. Thirdly, I refer to stages and patterns of development. And this is so true and so often overlooked, but we used to look at it from a standpoint of, was a chapter or an organization in another country simply starting, in which case we referred to it as developing, where they had a 3-year plan, a 3-year budget, they were undertaking 1 or 2 small events, they had at least 10 members to get started. We viewed these as being in a developing stage of the organization. And as those countries became more successful and took on additional programming, their membership grew, it became sustainable, we started to look at those interim chapters and organizations in other countries as being stable. They had reached a threshold of success that gave them an opportunity to continue to grow and be successful. And if they did so, they reached a third stage of development, which we called developed, where a country was largely pursuing the same level of programming, the same level of events as the headquarters organization itself. Perhaps not quite as broadly, but that there was a level of programming and events which provided a strong value proposition for the membership in country. Lastly, the fourth thing is to keep in mind who brings what strength. This might come into play a little later on with developed organizations in other countries for you, but at some point the strength of programming and the strength of thinking reaches a level that, as I found in my experience with a trade group, you can work with your chapters to help lead global initiatives, since good ideas come from everywhere, and since if they have reached a level of sophistication and a level of success with an area of programming that they have focused on and chosen to contribute to the industry, give them that opportunity to help with the organization on a global basis. These are a couple of considerations for you in the patterns of Groundhog Day, as I refer to it. And with that, I close the third of our series of videos on pragmatic realities and going global. Thank you very much.